Welcome to The Liquidity Event, a show about all things personal finance with a laser focus on taxes, financial independence, and equity compensation. Hosted by AJ and Shane of Brooklyn FI, each episode will focus on a personal finance topic, some driven by news headlines and sometimes driven by listener questions. And sometimes you'll just get two money nerds rambling about what they think is interesting. Just a quick note before we get started, this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered tax or investment advice.
Hello and welcome to the Liquidity Event. I am your host, Shane Mason.
I'm Kody Sherlund.
Welcome, Kody. And this is episode 199 being recorded on August 12th, airing August 13th. Email us your finance questions at liquidityevent@brooklynfi.com and we will answer them live on the air. AJ continues her fruitful maternity leave. She'll be back at some point in Septiembre. Until then, we've got our fantastic guests, such as Mr. Kody Sherlund, back here on the podcast. Good to see you again, Kody, despite the jersey, brother. What the hell is that? England. Is that a
This is a soccer podcast now.
We're just going to be talking about the World Cup in 2030 or something. Actually, I saw Mexico was playing, like, I didn't realize the World Cup games like start again right up after the World Cup ends. Like, they're already popping off national team games for the 2030 qualifiers, which is crazy. So yeah, this is a World Cup podcast until AJ gets back. This is we're getting as many sports references in as we can until she's back on the podcast and we have to resume our Taylor Swift tour following or what have you, or the Travis Kelce, etc. On this week's episode of the podcast, we have IRS issues proposed regulations around employer contributions to the Trump accounts, the new Trump accounts that were very specific in terms of timing and naming. We have more tech layoffs to cover around Google, TikTok, Etsy, Zillow. Developers, advisors, position for an Opportunity Zone 2.0 credits, opportunity investments. I'm really excited to talk about this one. Kody, get your ideas around how people can defer capital gains on liquidity events in 2026 and 2027. Buyer beware, private funds come with big tax bills. A lot of people are anxious to get into private funds so they can get access to software companies, tech companies before they go public, but it carries some tax implications if you do that really drag down on their returns. Spoiler alert. Only 6 billionaires have left California over its proposed wealth tax, but they took $27 billion in potential revenue with them. We're going to be covering the first wealth tax, or one of the first wealth taxes in America, one at scale. And finally, a Reddit question, a very common question we see on the internet and amongst our friends IRL. Do I need an LLC? So we'll hop in and all that in a minute. Kody, how's your summer going, buddy? Good to see you again.
Yeah, summer's going well. It's ending really soon, which is a little sad.
Aww.
But around the corner, we've got football, we've got football, and yeah, everything's firing up. So good time of year.
Did you land on a team for the Premier League to root for?
I really like Brighton. I don't know. It's kind of a little bandwagony, but like they're like the Moneyball of the English Premier League.
I gotta say, when you're picking a team to support, if you just go with the team in last place, that's also a little bit cheeky as well. Like, come on. Like, yeah, we get it. Underdogs are ideal. You're just signing up for pain. Like, I have to hear you whine about like rooting for the Boston Red Sox for 15 years, like 100 years until they win. Like, come on, buddy. Like, have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, there are some other paths that I thought about. Like, I don't know. I had a college buddy who was a Chelsea fan, so I always just kind of liked him. And yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna decide to be a New York Mets fan. Like,
yeah.
Like,
also that.
Sure, that's the way to go.
Also, I mean, I get it if you live there. Like, being a Mets fan in New York is kind of like being a Yankees fan is a whole thing. Like, that says a lot about your character. Also, you got to go to the Bronx to go to a game, which is tough.
Yeah.
Not that getting to Queens is very easy either. But
yeah, I mean, my mom's family actually immigrated from Liverpool. Maybe I should just be a Liverpool fan.
There you go.
But that's not the worst.
You need at least a
option.
tenuous connection to your team.
Yeah. That's my tenuous connection to my Three Lions shirt that I'm
Now,
wearing
what
right
is
now.
this Three Lions jersey that we have? Does it say Bellingham on the back or?
No, there's nothing on the back.
Okay, yeah. It's
No.
just,
I mean, we like Jude Bellingham, but
he's a handsome man, and he speaks three
Yes, he
languages, and he's rich, and he's thoughtful, and he's nice. and he cares about his mom. He's really hard not to love. And
Yeah.
I watched him sink a ton of goals for this World Cup. And when you're at an England game and they sing "Hey Jude" to him afterwards, like the whole stadium is singing it to the it is pretty sick.
Speaking of singing, England kind of adopted Wonderwall, which was pretty cool. But the Minnesota MLS team has been doing Wonderwall after wins.
What's that about?
Since they were incorporated. They'll just sing Wonderwall by Oasis. The entire stadium does. It's sick. It's really loud. It's cool. Yeah.
It is pretty fun. I didn't know that. Like, speaking of tenure, there's just no connection at all. Minnesota just likes the Wonderwall song. It's not exactly a feeder team to the English national team.
No, they're not.
All right, cool.
But
I think that's it.
We did it first.
You got it first. Fair enough. Cool. So let's get into the articles. I think that's enough soccer, enough football for today. By the way, soccer, you guys invented that word, not the Americans. The English created the word soccer. So thank you very much. In fact, we are recording from home today. We have the renovations continue here at Avenida Nuevo Leon in Mexico City. So let's hop into our articles. IRS issues proposed regulations on employer contributions to the Trump accounts. The IRS is trying to figure out how to actually regulate these contributions. Of course, Congress will create a law, and then the president and the executive branch will then sign that into, will approve of that. But the executive branch is in charge of the IRS, so they are the ones that actually have to interpret how the law is enacted. Correct? So this is the IRS asking people, they have proposed regulations. In other words, like, how are we actually going to do this shit? How are we going to make these contributions? As a reminder, Trump accounts are for children born within certain years, and it allows them to get tax deductions. The parents get tax deductions on their tax returns for contributions to these accounts. This idea comes from people considering the time value of money, one of the 8 wonders of the universe, eight natural wonders of the world. If you give a kid $1,000 when he's 0 years old, or a young baby, it ends up compounding to a point where it's worth a ton of money when they're 18 because of the time value of money, and you keep that money invested. Or the compounding nature of money, not the time value of money. Kody, what are your thoughts on these? The proposed regulations are just like a call for action, call for commentary. We're not sure how this is actually going to work. Tell me more about these Trump accounts. I feel like you're more in touch with it than I am because I'm a little out of touch with this aspect of saving for a kid's future.
Yeah, sure. Honestly, Section 530A, also known as Trump accounts, which, another cheeky turn.
Notably right after Section 529 of
the 530 after 529 in the form that we actually use to it's the 4547.
Oh boy.
I know. And anyway,
remind us why it's 4547? Form 545.
We don't this administration doesn't want to acknowledge 46. Yeah.
So presidential terms 45 and 47 are Trump's terms, so we got an IRS. Everything has to be named after our boy.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay.
Yeah. Just stitch it in big gold letters on the side of your red hat. But the Section 530A accounts, these Trump accounts, the idea is that we're going to get some tax deferred growth for kids. It's basically an investment account that's living somewhere between 529 and maybe a taxable brokerage account that gets little to no tax advantage. So the idea is it could convert into an IRA for a kid when they're an adult. And what we're talking about here is employers actually putting money into these plans for people. So your employer can generally make a matching contribution to your 401k, right? Mm-hmm. The idea is they're doing something similar for these Section 530A accounts, and we need rules in order to actually set up these plans. Like, something that a lot of clients we ask to do when they hire us is to give us their summary plan description for their company's 401k plan so we can figure out what your company's 401k plan rules are, because they have to be documented in order for these employers to get tax breaks for setting up these 401k plans, and for us to be able to defer our taxes by putting money into them. They have to satisfy a whole bunch of IRS rules. They have to satisfy non-discrimination rules. So they're basically setting all this legwork up for these accounts too, so that, if your company matches and puts $2,500 into your kid's Trump account, 530A account, they're following the rules. We have the documentation. So we will see some more guidance after the comment period, after the hearings, and hopefully in a matter of months. These nebulous accounts that basically just had a name before the 250th birthday of the country. Another coincidence there. Yeah, hopefully we have more guidance sooner than later.
USA.
We're not wearing USA soccer jerseys.
I don't have mine, unfortunately. Now, the last thing I want to say on this is that they are setting up non-discrimination rules, which are really important because in the 401k space, which has been described to me by many lawyers, tax lawyers, as a rat's nest of regulations, wherein like it's really hard to navigate, and I've gotten in trouble before. I've had a client fire me back in the olden days, the old days of freelancing, because there was some 401k rules around two companies. Yeah. Anyway, so the non-discrimination rules create this mechanism to prevent the richest people at companies from benefiting from these accounts, whereas the not rich or the lower income individuals, essentially, like if you're a business owner and you're making $300K and you've got 6 employees making $50K, if you're making contributions to your kids' Trump accounts, you also have to make contributions to the other people at the firm's accounts if you want to benefit from the tax deduction and the tax deferred growth and what have you, the tax benefits of it. So they're ironing that out as well. I imagine they're just going to copy paste from some other parts of the Internal Revenue Code. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to taking advantage of these accounts. If we have clients that have already have the ability to max out 529s and they're looking for, I believe that's our order of operations at PKFI right now. We're only addressing these if somebody's already maxed out 529s, because 529s have more favorable rules and regulations around them. So this is just icing on the cake. Okay, cool. So more stuff for rich people. Okay, so next article, speaking of wealthy companies, we have tech layoffs in August. We have an update. Google, TikTok, Etsy, Zillow have all slashed hundreds of roles as job losses pile up in 2026. The only thing I'll say before I let you talk about this is that apparently there are fewer companies firing people, but the number of jobs that have been laid off in 2026 year to date already exceeds what we've seen in 2025. A lot of people are thinking about AI. It's really hard to ignore the idea that artificial intelligence isn't having an impact on the job market. As somebody that is AI pilled, so to speak, it's pretty clear that a high agency person can do the work of multiple people. Kody, what was your thought?
Yeah, I mean, AI was my first thought. It's funny because these companies are like, oh, we're not laying off people because of AI. It's like they're answering an accusation that they weren't even explicitly asked. It's like, okay, yeah, so you probably were. But I don't know. My more broad thoughts here are a little bit less tech specific. I mean, when we go down that tech rabbit hole, it's like, okay, then, CapEx for some of these companies is obviously kind of bonkers right now. Like, and, cutting payroll is an easy way to at least save a few bucks. But broadly speaking, the labor market is in a really weird place. It's a very interesting spot. We just got a jobs report last week. Jobs were down. So new hires were down. We actually net lost jobs. There were some downward revisions for some of the previous months. And I think it's important to not get too hung up on any one jobs report, because month to month, it's actually quite variable. So, you have to be able to decipher signal from the noise with that set of statistics. But the overall trend is downward. The unemployment rate is only 4.1%. But again, we talked about this a few episodes ago. That doesn't tell the whole story, because we can manipulate the denominator, not just the numerator. The prime age employment ratio, or the labor force participation rates, those are just a sliver downward, which, coupled with somewhat persistent inflation, is not a terrific combination. So we're getting into this low hire, low fire environment, where most of our economic growth right now is perhaps coming from AI. What is that actually doing to human capital? It's kind of flat, which, you're going to feel that more in tech than you are in healthcare, right? So healthcare jobs are actually positive. So, that's where we're seeing it balance out. Longer term trends, it's going to be interesting to pay attention to, especially over the next 6 to 12 months as we potentially see some IPOs. But
interesting. Yeah. It's really curious. I think we spoke about it on the podcast last week as well, about how the applications for new businesses are going up, and there's all these small businesses that are doing 7 figures in revenue and EBITDA that have no employees or a very small amount of employees. Mm-hmm. And I was just sitting here, and this might be a stretch, but it kind of reminds me of the reason that we have so many Chinese-owned laundromats and restaurants, because we would not hire the Chinese back after they built the railroads. Nobody wanted to hire them because of racism, so all they could do was become entrepreneurs. And they opened up all these laundromats and they opened up all these restaurants, and then more and more came up and became like a stamp. And it just makes me think, like, if people are not going to hire a developer or a marketer or what have you, but they have the tools over here to start their own business, aka AI, the reason they don't have this business, if they're not getting hired, maybe we're going to get just like a multitude of really small businesses that are really niche, that really serve their local communities or can serve the whole nation or even globally, because they don't need to hire 7 to 10 people to handle all of the intricacies of a small business. And I think we're going to have potentially a golden period or golden era of small niche businesses. And it's going to be easy to find them too, because AI can go and say, hey, I'm looking for I just bought a dog raincoat, and there was like 2 options on the internet, and they're both like bright yellow, and like Charlie's on, like, I want something cooler than this. Like, surely there's like a cooler small dog. Like, you see what I'm going with this? Like, there's going to be small businesses that cater to everybody. I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing the silver lining in these layoffs and like this downturn in the necessity for labor. People are going to work. People are going to do things. We have to apply ourselves. We go crazy if we don't have problems to solve as human beings. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I would be shocked if this ends up being like a gigantic black swan event where half of the working aged people who were in tech or worked in some form of a white collar job in front of a screen are just all laid off. Like, yeah, capitalism and like creative destruction is why we've gotten to where we are now. Like, if we were to go back 30 years, or God forbid 60 or 100 years, most of the jobs that existed back then don't exist anymore.
Sure.
Like, if you go ask like your great-great-grandfather, like, hey, what did you do for work? He's like, I was a shoe cobbler, or I was a bookkeeper and I did it all by hand. It took forever.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, well, that job doesn't exist anymore, Grandpa.
Right.
It's better now. I mean, a decent analog here is Microsoft Excel. Mm-hmm. Man, people thought Excel was going to kill a lot of jobs. More people use Excel today than there were bookkeepers before Excel. Like, if anything, it was just an additive tool that made people better at their jobs, and you needed fewer people and less time to do something, which frees up all of the human capital and brain power and energy to do other stuff. Like, I think in the long run, this is going to be good.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I mean, the people that are getting laid off aren't like people that can't handle technology, right? It's specifically people that work in technology. So I think they'll be able to pivot.
There's also less geographic tie down the way that there was, like, perhaps at the end of the industrial, manufacturing in the Rust Belt.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a laid off tech worker, you don't have to move from Pittsburgh to Austin.
Yeah.
Right.
You can move out of San Francisco, which is apparently the highest.
Probably going to save you money.
The highest rents in America. It just surpassed New York at 3,700-ish median rent in San Francisco, thanks to the AI boom. Okay, cool. So the one last thing I'll say about this is, like, there were all these CEOs of tech firms saying how there's going to be a SaaS apocalypse because every like plumber is going to build their own CRM. And it's like, blue collar people are not interacting with AI. Like, they're not, that's not why they got into like blue collar jobs. All right. So
I think like 6% of the adult population uses Claude.
Yeah, shit.
It's a lot, and it's also not a lot.
Damn,
depending on how you look at it.
I would like to know actually what that number is.
Yeah.
As somebody that runs out of their weekly usage limit on the max plan every week, that scares me. I am a very lonely person these days. So good to see you, Kody.
Yeah, Claude is my best friend.
Yeah.
Claude is also my golf coach. All right.
Okay. Do you actually use Claude for golf stuff? Does that?
Yeah.
It does?
Yeah.
Walk me through that, because that's like a physical, visual thing.
Yeah, I mean, give it a lot of information, give it data, give it videos, give it commentary. Like, this is what happened in my round today. Struggled with X, Y, and Z. What are you seeing here? And
this is a sports podcast after all, so I'm trying to dig deeper.
It's crazy. It can take a video of me hitting a golf ball and be like, yeah, just depending on like going through the frame rates and being like, honestly, your hips are getting out a little bit ahead of your hands. It's causing a little bit of lag here. it's going to leave the face open, and you're going to block the ball to the right if you keep doing this.
Holy shit. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, work on turning your hips. And it's like, do I need a new driver? And Claude's like, it's crazy, man. It's
damn. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, supposedly that's why Facebook is trying to put all these meta glasses on everybody, because one of the last, like, we've already mined all of the written data in the world. So what's next in terms of new raw information is like the visual data that they can pick up from looking up girl skirts. Apparently, with the perv glasses, the new Meta Ray-Ban Facebook, which are getting banned in a lot of locations. Reddit is full of nasty stories. Not nasty stories, but they're just like inappropriate, like uncomfortable stories, I'll say, are popping up all over the place.
My mind went to, okay, where am I not allowed to have a camera? Mm-hmm. The first place I think of is Augusta National. Like, if I go to the Masters, can I bring that? Like, could I sneak meta glasses into the Masters?
I didn't realize that. The exclusivity of the Masters.
I mean, honestly, it's so pure with no phones, but
that is cool. We need more phoneless places. We're not covering the Meta lawsuit out of, I believe, Arizona, by the way, which labeled the company a public nuisance, similar to how tobacco companies were labeled back in the 50s and 60s, which might be the beginning of a dramatic legislative update in terms of social media for children and adults, perhaps. But that's for another podcast. For now, we should be talking about opportunity zones. Mr. Sherlund, let's pivot over to developers advisors position for Opportunity Zone 2.0 investments. For those that don't know, Opportunity Zones are real estate investment funds or direct investments where you could get significant tax breaks for trying to resuscitate certain parts of certain cities or rural areas by making investments to overhaul them, refurbish them, etc. Very complicated, but with the help of a financial advisor, they can help you put money in the right place. Even if it isn't in a perfect place, potentially the tax breaks could overweigh the returns that you could get in another investment. Kody, talk to me about like Opportunity Zone 1.0 versus 2.0 and like your interaction with clients around these types of investments.
Yeah. I mean, the differences between 1.0 and 2.0 to me are it's less important than like the broader planning question here, because I mean, like with the One Big Beautiful Bill and removing the the unknown cliff at the end, like, that's all helpful and whatnot. But if I'm somebody thinking about actually making an investment in a piece of real estate in an opportunity zone because I am chasing tax efficiency, okay, what percentage of my investable net worth am I actually investing in a piece of real estate that has a speculative return and has probably extremely unknown cash flows? Like, you know what? If I want to buy like a warehouse in an old part of town, or a block of apartments in an old part of town, like, what part of your net worth are you willing to stick your neck out with? Like 5%, 10%? What exactly does that buy? So this is going to skew toward the higher end of ability for folks. Like, probably several $1 million to even really be thinking about getting into this kind of alternative investment class, which more on alts in a minute. But like, to me, I'm just thinking about the ROI on that kind of an investment. Like, a lot of the time someone says, oh, I just need this to break even for me. Like, if they're just buying a rental property, like maybe someone's just buying a condo, just a single condo in an opportunity zone. And they're like, all right, well, if I buy it, then I rent it out for this much, I might be making $500 a month on it. It's like, okay, is that actually a good rate of return based on the amount of capital that you sunk into it? And then accounting for, if you have a loan on it, interest, property taxes, maintenance. If you don't have a tenant, then like suddenly a couple cash flow negative months are going to like completely throw that through the loop. Or you have to replace a hot water heater or a roof, or the tenants just kind of run it down over time. Like, if you have an Airbnb property in like Nashville or Scottsdale, I promise you the walls are getting kicked up a little bit.
Who would do such a thing?
Like, when my boys and I go on a golf trip or on a ski trip, I don't think we're super respectful of the Airbnbs that we're staying in.
Especially if it's clearly a professional Airbnb.
Yeah, so I'm like, when it comes to an opportunity zone, yes, the tax advantages are a lot better than your traditional piece of property that you could be adding to a well-diversified portfolio, but you got to think about the fact that there's a lot of cash flows involved here, and there's also with the opportunity zones, there's actually a significant amount of illiquidity here.
Yep, you got to hold it.
You got to stick in it for a long
5 years, 7 years, something crazy like that.
Yeah. So You can't eat it. Maybe you can sell it and eat it in 10 years, but
Yeah.
yeah, you got to be okay with getting it tied up.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with it potentially not working out all that well for you. Like in chasing tax efficiency, we are usually adding a little bit of complexity or risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I'm thinking about like, okay, what if we do like a long short strategy in someone's brokerage account or direct indexing? Like you are exposing yourself to a little bit more volatility to look for like more tax loss harvesting. It's not exactly the same, but you know, we've got a lot of tools in our toolbox, and something that that I would hope people are thinking about is talking to their planner, talking to their tax manager about whether or not the pros outweigh the cons here, and just understanding the variables and the risk.
Yeah, I speaking of AI, I pinged Claude just prior to the podcast. I was like, if you had because apparently you can have liquidity events in 2026 that you can defer in 2027 and there's like all kinds of games. If you're trying to get a deferral, you really should talk to Kody or your financial advisor, because this stuff is quite complicated. It's like, the tax tail might be wagging the dog in this case, which could be appropriate. And like, if I was selling this to myself, I was thinking about like, if I was going to do this, because I see things that come across, I'm like, this is complicated. Maybe it makes sense for certain people. You're invested. Like I would pitch it to a client as a almost like, what do we call it when it's like morally appropriate or like morally beneficial? What type of ESG? I'd be like, this is like an ESG investment. Like that's so embarrassing that I forgot what that was, because like I obviously don't put a lot of my funds are in ESG. My 401k is all ESG, but that's for another. That's just virtue signaling for our audience. I would be pitching it as, hey, we're building housing in rural areas that really need it, or maybe even in urban areas. We were just speaking about how San Francisco has a dearth of available opportunities because of NIMBYism. If like these opportunity zones should be really, in my opinion, if we want to like bring down the cost of housing like was done in Austin, Texas, we just frankly need supply. So hopefully a lot of these opportunity zone funds are actually just in super high density or like low density, like single family home zones that need high rises to bring down the cost of living. I mean, that'd be fantastic.
So think about like 90% of the urban area in San Francisco, how it doesn't go over like 2.5 stories. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of density and infill would help lift that up a little bit.
Yeah. How cute. And the neighborhoods are quite cute, but you can't get a house there, which apparently isn't slowing down the AI race boom, et cetera. But all right, cool. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's mostly for 2027, by the way, moving forward. And it has been made permanent, I believe, as a part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the OBA situation. So we'll be dealing with this and offering these opportunities on a case-by-case basis. So speaking of individual private investments, we have a buyer beware article from the Wall Street Journal. Private funds come with big tax bills. So this is an article about how, while they may be very attractive, private funds, so to speak, that put you into private investments. You can get access to private companies before they go public. Essentially, you're not investing in the public markets or ETFs that have the special tax consequences. People have been reading about the returns that David Swensen produced at endowment funds, at Yale's endowment fund. He did about 13.5% over the course of 30 years, which exceeds the typical ETF return of the S&P 500 by like 3-4%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but over the course of 30 years, it turns into, depending on your what you start with, could be 7, 8, 9, 10 figures of differences because of the compounding, the seventh wonder of the world, compounding. Compound interest. So, Kody, what was your thoughts on the billionaire or the private funds tax bills?
Yeah, this is something that we get asked about a lot. Like when people are thinking about diversifying their portfolio even farther than, the typical asset classes that we'd be thinking of, like large cap, small cap, bonds, maybe a little bit of real estate, international emerging markets, like some of these alternative asset classes they're just not as tax efficient as some of the ETFs that we would be thinking about using in the majority of the portfolio anyway. Like, think of it this way. You could have a private credit fund that is going to produce a little bit of interest income for you. You're going to get a tax haircut on that. Whereas if you own a muni bond fund in a brokerage account, that's not going to get, that interest isn't taxable for you, right? So then you also get into the space of alternative investments that's like okay, these are generally like not super liquid or traded funds that the outcomes are just going to be so much more variable. Like, yes, the Yale fund famously did really well. How did Harvard do? Right. Let's check out a whole bunch of other university endowments.
Anecdotal.
Right?
Anecdotal
Yes.
evidence.
The Yale one is anecdotal, and a lot of the time when we look at these endowment funds, because they do have access to these markets, or how do pension funds perform, or the Mormon Church, like what is their fund doing?
Is that public?
Actually, no.
I was gonna say.
No.
Let's get the. What do you think the ROI is at the Church of Scientology? How do you think their fund has been doing over the past?
I want to know what they're invested in. But
you know, buddy.
You just
you already
yeah, right.
I have no idea. Like space spirit. Okay, sorry. No. Anyway, back on track.
Flying spaghetti monster. The investment outcomes here are going to be a little bit harder to predict. You're getting into more niche products. Like there are going to be some private investments that do quite well, and there are going to be some that go completely belly up. And when we're thinking about, again, a sliver of your investable net worth, perhaps going into this direction, we need to be okay with a little bit of the volatility that comes with it, and just less tax efficiency.
Yeah.
That's the big thing here.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a nice little ETF that is designed to be tax efficient in your brokerage account.
Right. Yeah, it's fun to say, hey, I want to get in private funds because they outperform the public market. I'm smarter than that. When statistically, you're not going to pick the right one. A lot of studies have shown that drunken monkeys with darts actually do better at picking investment managers than human beings do, like CFAs and et cetera. So you can't predict it. It's just best to stick with the average. You're going to get rich. You're going to get rich slowly, just fine, with a lot less stress and a lot less tax as well. Just going with the public markets.
A lot of the time, these funds end up just becoming like conversation fodder for people on the golf course or at a cocktail hour.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, well, I have this. It's like, you don't need to show off to your friends that you have a more sexy and sophisticated investment product because your advisor got you access to a private credit fund.
I'm glad you won at blackjack last weekend. Now tell me about the other 9 times you went to the casino.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of tax bills, we have one final article this week about how California has passed its wealth tax. And that goes into effect, I believe, in January of 2027. So looks like January of 2026. So only 6 billionaires left California over its proposed wealth tax, but they took a potential $27 billion in potential revenue with them. This is an article from Fortune. One of my favorite things that they do in all these wealth tax articles is they interview a billionaire about it. And I'm like, I don't fucking care what they think about what the billionaires think. Give me a tax policy expert, somebody that works at the Brookings Institute, or give me Thomas Piketty, or give me like economics of Gary. That guy rules, like Gary's economics or whatever. And let's talk about how the wealth tax is like supposed to be like the only thing that's going to tilt the scale back towards the middle class existing or not being wiped out in America over the next. Anyway, so Kody, what were your thoughts on the California wealth tax?
Yeah. Only 6 out of 214 left.
Not bad.
I mean, potentially a quarter of the base for that potential tax. So that's not as good. But
yeah,
wealth taxes are tough. They're really hard. Like if you go read some white papers from some think tanks, which we've both done, they're pretty difficult to implement. And what California is doing here is on the cutting edge of this. I mean, we'll see what the voters do with this, but I have a pretty good feeling that populism is going to end up winning the day here, and it's probably going to pass. Because, like, when you got tens of millions of people thinking about taxing the wealthiest 200 people in the state, it's a popular idea. Now, in practice, how is the accounting going to go? How are we going to, actually kind of tally up these guys' net worths? How are we going to actually say, okay, well, now you need to cough up 5%, figure out the liquidity on your own, pay some more capital gains tax on that too. There's other stuff that goes in there, but it also, to me, when I was reading this, I was just thinking about all the clients that we have that work in tech with equity compensation and have lived in multiple states. We've got people in California, New York, who have moved to Texas, Florida, or the other way around, or skipped a couple states or ended up in Washington. And multi-state stuff is complicated. Like, And states like California and New York are going to be pretty aggressive in actually trying to track down taxable revenue that they believe was rightfully generated in that state. We see it a lot with New York State, with New York City, even like non-resident, like domicile people working in the city. Like, honestly, like this stuff is it's complicated, and it's just not as cut and dry as it would be. Like, really nice to be able to, like, you know what, just cut over 5% and we're good.
Yeah.
But
Let's name some of the people that left and like see if there's a common thread. Larry Page, Sergey Brin of Google, VC Peter Thiel left California for Miami. Yep. Don Hankey left for Las Vegas, a no income tax state. Travis Kalanick, probably the youngest of all these people. Director Steven Spielberg moved to New York City, probably increased his tax rate. And it looks like Mark Zuckerberg has also left, but not before the deadline. And there were some other folks, but David Sachs, yuck, left for Austin. Surprise, surprise. The crypto guy, the crypto czar. What do all these people? First of all, they're old. Right. So they've already probably built. They're not building anymore. They've already built on the back of the state of California. And now they're moving out after they've reaped all of the rewards, and they're not contributing back into the system that has made them billionaires. One other thing that we're forgetting is clawbacks. Okay. So they don't ever really want to talk about this. Now, you and I know about this because we deal with this on a day-to-day basis. But if you have equity that has vested while you are a resident of the state of California, that is compensation that is forever going to be attributable to the state of California. The laws are weird, and that's why they never show up in the Fortune articles, because no one wants to read about this. But if, when Elon left California to go to Austin, and a lot of his equity was vesting in the state of California, when that stuff is sold, California is going to take a bite. They're going to get that because that was built on, and that's why those clawbacks for non-residents that have equity income or equity compensation that vested while they were in those states, that's why those rules exist. We see a lot of like New York to California back and forth, and we have to file a lot of multi-state tax returns where we take huge tax credits in one state for taxes that were paid in another state to make sure that they're not double taxed, et cetera. These articles have never touched that, which I find kind of funny. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Like it is a reminder that this is a, like 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% situation. True. Whereas like, you're not going to see in Fortune or the Wall Street Journal a story about someone who works at Anthropic who could have millions of dollars of income later this year or next and is going to have that income clawed back to California even if they move to Nevada next year. But they're just not going to put that in there. And like it also reminds me of people asking like, hey, how do I like not have income the way that Elon doesn't have income? He just borrows. And like I've got like, progressively minded friends that are pissed off when they read about that. And it's like, yeah, even the folks who have $10 million as a liquid net worth or 15 or 20, they're still not really doing that.
Yeah, no, it's hard to live off the loans. You're essentially your stock needs to be like increasing in value like 25, 30, 50% year on year, because a marginal loan that you can actually take is going to be a small percentage of the assets that you have. If you have $10 million, you could take a 10% margin loan. That means you could take $1 million out that you have to live on. And then like if the stock dips, you might have a call on your margin. Yep. So like it is truly for like the deca millionaires probably the deca billionaires, because they're like buying planes with their loans and shit like that. Okay, let's wrap up. We're way over, but we have the article. We have a Reddit question. Do I need an LLC? My liquid net worth is 1.3 million. I own a very low risk mail order business. Do I need it? I just want to answer this question. Yes, you do. And the reason that I'm not even considering the complications is because AI can just help you solve any of the problems that you run into while you're setting up your LLC. Okay? You don't need a lawyer anymore to answer all those questions, or LegalZoom's terrible UI that's going to make it really hard, and they're going to try to upsell you on a bunch of other shit that you don't need. Just use AI to set up your LLC. Here comes the golden era of small businesses that are niched into small things. Okay. Kody, thank you so much I didn't give you an answer to touch on that, but
rhyme for you.
Okay.
Are you screwed if you get sued?
There you go. Boom. A couple $100 keeps your $1.5 million of net worth protected. Also add on a little bit of umbrella insurance, my friend, because you probably need that. All right. This has been the liquidity event. Thank you so much for listening. Kody, thank you so much for joining me this week while AJ's out on mat leave. All you BKFI and liquidity event stands can leave us a 5-star review if you want to be weird about it. Bye.